post this recording on our Farnsley.us page to make it accessible for others who want to refer to it or weren't able to join us tonight. So welcome, parent. This is our series of parent engagement engagement series where we talk about specific concerns or resources that we have to offer for you as a family to support your child in their learning and to help support us in with your. So tonight's topic is reopening plan. We are going to talk about the specifics of reopening if and when that comes about in Jefferson County Public Schools. When I say if and when, even up to the superintendent, they can make the recommendation, but it has to go before the board and be voted in order for us to be accepted to go back into school. But the best way for us to possibly get back into a new normal is to be prepared and have a plan of action on how we would best address the needs of you all as a community, the students and the staff, so that everyone feels comfortable returning to the building and knows clearly their expectations and how we will handle things throughout. So that being said, I'd like to first start out with a short video that was produced by the district on what transportation looks like. Please know that we are focusing on what the parents they want and need and ask for in how they can better prepare their child in returning to school. So the first thing we want to look at is the transportation, what transportation looks like for the district. So Mr. Kester, I know you were going to cue that video. As always, we have a Q&A session at the end. We'll go through our presentation and offer a Q&A session at the end that can answer any and all of your questions. I think Kester is going to pull up that video. I know you're like, keep stalling, keep stalling. It's okay. So this video is about, I can share this much. When are they even considering us going back to school? Maybe the end of March, beginning of April. And maybe even a hybrid model, depending on what the state requirement or district requirement at that time. So I'm going to pause for just a second so that you can watch this quick video on transportation and what that will look like from your home to the school, if that's what you choose.
Returning to school buildings. Let's take a look. Jefferson County Public Schools is looking forward to our students safely returning to school buildings. Let's take a look at what the school day might look like for those students getting back to in-person classes. As students wait at the stop, they should social distance. Parents or guardians must attest their student doesn't have a temperature greater than 100.4 or have any COVID-19 symptoms before arriving at the bus stop. As students board the bus, they must continue to wear a mask. A mask will be provided if they don't have one. Each student will have an assigned seat to improve contact tracing if a student becomes ill. Windows will be open, weather permitting, and masks will be kept on during the entire ride to school. Hand sanitizer will be available on each school bus, and every bus will be sanitized after each run. Arriving at school, every student and staff member will have their temperature checked before entering the school building. Inside, masks will continue to cover the nose and mouth, and everyone will see reminders to social distance with markings on the hallway floors and signs on the walls. No large groups will be allowed to congregate in the hallways. Hand sanitizer will be located throughout the building, including each classroom, and students will be given ample opportunities to wash their hands during the day. In classrooms, students will have assigned seats, and desks or tables will be arranged to support safety guidelines. Students will be encouraged to stay in their seats. Masks will continue to be worn by both the students and the teacher. For breakfast and lunch, students will go to the cafeteria and walk through the food service line. JCPS Nutrition Services staff members will be wearing masks and gloves as they serve healthy meals to students. Some schools will have enough room to have all students eat in the cafeteria and still maintain proper social distancing. Others may have children eating in other areas, like outside, in the gymnasium, or in open classrooms. As students leave the building for the day, they'll continue to follow the same health and safety guidelines, keeping on their mask, going to their school bus, and then sitting on their assigned seat. With no one in the building, custodial staff members can clean and sanitize the school overnight, preparing for another day of in-person learning.
Thank you so much. That is available on the JCPS website. If anyone wanted to look into that further, want to view how the expectations on the bus will be. At this point, I am turning it over to our administrative staff at Farnsley, who is going to go through our presentation on what to expect from the time they get off the bus throughout the day, and what to expect upon them returning to you, however they get to school, whether on the bus or in the through the car or even a walker. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I'm Sarah Nethery. I'm one of the assistant principals here at Farnsley. Do the other APs and administrators want to introduce themselves?
I'm David Bobb. I'm the 6th grade assistant principal.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Crystal Lanier. I'm the 7th grade assistant principal.
Good evening, everyone. I'm LaQuisha Burks. I am the 6th grade counselor.
Good evening. My name is Travis Raderstorff. I am the 7th grade counselor.
Hi, I'm BJ Mayhew, and I'm the Youth Service Center coordinator.
Hello, I'm Ashley Downs, and I'm the mental health practitioner.
We also have a few other staff members that are with us. I think I see Mr. Kester and Ms. Collins. Did I miss anybody? I'm looking through this list. I think that's it. Thank you guys for coming. So I'm just gonna kick off this presentation. We each are gonna kind of explain some slides to you. We have the chat open with several people who will be addressing questions in the chat. And then at the end, like we've always done with the parent engagement meetings, we will have a question and answer session. So as we're going through the presentation, if you have a question, drop it in the chat, and we will try to catch that, whether we're going through the presentation or we'll catch it at the end. No worries, we'll get to everybody. But we're going to get started. So the next slide is the agenda. And I know Mr. Kester dropped the slide deck in the chat for you as well. And this will take you to some important documents. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about today are our return to school options. And a lot of you have already elected whether you will be sending your child back to school or if you will be going on a virtual basis. And so there are links in here in this document or in this particular slide that you can make your selection. So if you have not made your selection, you can click on this and please feel free to do that. So the option is that you can come back in person when the board votes us to go back. Like Ms. Smith said earlier, we do not have any information on when that will be, but we're hoping to get some more information soon, or your child can do a virtual school option. Tonight's presentation is going to focus on if your child is returning to in-person school instruction. Okay, and so I'm going to pass the next slide off to Ms. Mayhew, our Youth Service Center coordinator.
Okay, so when you think about returning to school, there's lots of things as a parent that come to mind. What your child's going to wear, what they need to bring with them, how you're going to prep them in the morning. And so for them to be successful, we want to help with that. Uniforms are a thing that Farnsley requires. We do have a dress code, and we are a school that wears uniforms. However, due to COVID-19, we know that there are some hardships, and as a parent myself of a Farnsley student, where are we going to find these uniforms, right? So we put together a proposal for a temporary dress code to get us through the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year. So our goal is to suspend the current uniform policy and allow students to have a dress code. So we want them to be successful. So there are some parameters around what they wear, but we're much more lenient than wearing a uniform. And you can see the dress code here. I won't go through it detail by detail, but jeans are approved. T-shirts, sweaters, sweatshirts are approved. They do not have to wear a polo. They do not have to wear khakis. However, if you have those things for your student, by all means, they can wear that as well. So I will tell you that it does have to go through one more round of our SBDM before it has the official final stamp of approval. But we are very we're pretty certain that it's going to be approved. So we don't want you to stress about trying to find uniforms for your student. The other thing that I would like to talk about is what they need to bring with them. So the very number one thing that you need to think about for your student is wearing a mask. And this needs to be a CDC approved mask. That's something that's 2-layered that covers your nose, mouth, and chin. And so it needs to be school appropriate. There's all kinds of fun masks with all kinds of sayings, but we need it to be school appropriate. And they cannot wear the gaiters. They cannot wear the face shields, and a bandana is not sufficient. So keep that in mind when you're getting the mask for your student. The second thing that they really need to have with them every day is the Vils backpack that they got when they did when you did the iPad pickup. So there's a picture here that Ms. DeKester put on here for us of what the backpack looks like. I know lots of people have kiddos with lots of different kinds of backpacks, but this is the one that they have to bring with them. And this is the only one they are to bring with them. It's big enough for them to have their iPad, what other supplies they need. And also, it's important for them to get their charger, have that with them just in case emergency, but we'd love for their iPad to be fully charged. So keep that in mind as well. The next thing on the list that is new, due to COVID, we are requiring students to bring disposable containers for their lunches. Paper bag, Kroger bag, any kind of grocery bag, something that they can throw away. So they're going to bring it with them in their backpack. We will not be using lockers. They will keep their backpack with them in their classroom, and they will take their lunch out of the disposable bag to the location where they have lunch, if they choose to bring a lunch. But we cannot have food once they go into the cafeteria with their lunch. We can't have any food or drink come back out of the cafeteria, and that's just for health and safety reasons. So we just want to make sure that we let you know that, because that's something that's new. Okay, I think we're good with that for now. If we want to go to the next slide. So if your kiddo is sick, again, like Renee Murphy said on the transportation video, it's imperative that you make sure your child doesn't have any symptoms before they come to school that day, or before they get on the bus if they're a bus rider. So please make sure that they don't have a temp. But when they get to school and they're not feeling well, we do have a health room, and we do have a health clerk that will be with your student and will be contacting you immediately. So we want you to know that the most important thing is to keep your child safe. So we want to let you know if they're not feeling well, and we ask that you or someone on their enrollment form, someone who's approved to come get them, we would ask that you come pick them up. But we would keep them in a location in a sick room, health room, until they're picked up. And then the administrator for their grade level will follow up with you about contact tracing, because that's important. If they were a bus rider who they sat next to, if they ate breakfast that morning, who they sat next to. If they were in class and they felt ill later in the day, we would make sure that we work that out for you and let you know. And we will follow all CDC protocols and health regulations.
Okay, the next two slides, one's about visitors and one is about the PPE. They are not going to allow visitors in the building. The building is going to be operated at a security level 3, and a lot of people panic when they hear security level 3, but we probably operate on a 2.5 anyways every day because our doors are all locked. They have to buzz in, have to buzz you in to come in. You have to check in the main office and then go to the classroom in normal times. So all this is if you have to pick up your child, you'd ring the bell, show your ID. Mr. Stephan or a staff member would come over, check the ID, radio to the office, hey, I need to pick up my son or my child, David Bob, and they'd get him down to you. All meetings, all ARC meetings, all parent meetings are going to be virtual at this time. And like I said, if you need to sign your child out, it's actually in the back of the building, door 3. That's also the car rider line. If you're familiar with the building, must be on the enrollment form, must have your ID, and they will greet you and get your child to you as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. As it was shown on the video, when the staff and students come in the building, they will get their temperature taken. They have to have their approved CDC mask on. We will give them a mask if they don't have one. Obviously, the bus driver will give them one, and we'll even have extra ones if they need it once they get to school. All classrooms and common areas are going to be equipped with masks and hand sanitizers and stations. There's been tons of signs put up already, and we're still working on more signs. X's on the floor to mark 6 feet apart, arrows in the hallway, signage in the hallway, in the bathroom. They're going to know where they're supposed to stand and how far apart they're supposed to be. And then for contact tracing purposes, students are going to have a QR code on the back of their iPads that they can scan so that we know that they checked in the car rider line, the bus line, and the temperatures will be documented too. So then we'll know, who came in the building, when they came in the building. And then all CDC guidelines are going to be followed when we sanitize throughout the day during restroom breaks and class changes and things like that.
Okay, so with the arrival to school, I want to just pause for just a second. We understand that there are a lot of you that are here tonight that have never been in our building, never brought kids to Farnsley, never picked them up. And so this is the first of many meetings that we're going to have, but we're going to be pushing out a lot of tutorial videos. It sounds kind of silly, but having videos on how to drop your child off in the morning or how to pick them up in the afternoon. So we're definitely going to be giving you more of that information because we know that some of you have never been in our building before. So just to run through this, when children arrive to school, they're either bus riders, walkers, or car riders. And so these procedures will not change with the doors that they come in. Bus riders and walkers will enter through door 1, which is in the front of the building. That's like the Lee's Lane side. Okay. And then the car riders will enter through door 3, which is our visitor section. It's behind our building. So when you come in, you see that marquee sign, you turn at Wildcat Lane, and that takes you back to our visitor parking. And that's where the children will enter in the car rider line. It's hard to miss the car rider line. But the student is not to exit the car until their temperature is taken. So we have staff that will be in the front of the building with the bus riders, and we have staff in the back of the building with car riders, and they will be taking temperatures. But for car riders, students will not exit the car until their temperature is taken. One thing that we thought about, because we are going to maybe be in a season where you still have your heat on, maybe you have your air conditioner on, who knows what it's going to be in April in Kentucky. But make sure you turn your car AC off a few minutes before, and heat off a few minutes before pulling up. We just want to make sure we get a good temperature of your child. But temperatures are taken and documented by staff in those both areas. If anyone is at 100.4 degrees or above, they'll be escorted to our health room. And approved contact from the enrollment form will be called to pick up their student from the office. So we'll talk about that a little bit, what that looks like. But I wanted to emphasize that we have to have those enrollment forms on file, and the information must be correct. There needs to be a number where we can get a hold of you. If you work during the day, we understand, but please put somebody that can either get a hold of you or that someone else can come pick your child up in case they are sick and they are running a fever. Staff will ensure that students are social distancing as they're entering the building, and students will have the option of going to the cafeteria to eat breakfast. A lot of these are the same practices that we do every day anyways. The only difference is we're going to be documenting temperatures and contact tracing. Students will be holding in the gym and sitting by team until about 7:25, and that is also a normal practice. The kids will be social distance in the gym as well. And I think Ms. Burks has our next slide.
Yes. Once your student has arrived at school, this is kind of like what their day is going to look like. Your students will remain in the same classroom throughout the day, and the teachers will rotate to each classroom. Students may or may not be rotating to related arts. I know we have the music students are band, orchestra, and choir. There's a possibility those students will be rotating from their team areas to those related arts areas. This will help us with contract tracing and also maintaining the CDC protocols. The schedule will consist of the 4 content areas, which is English language arts, social studies, math, and science, and the 1 related arts class. We plan on including also wellness breaks where students have the opportunity to go outside, and that is also going to be weather permitting. So that'll be a time to kind of like get away from the classroom, maybe take a mask break away from other students. So that's going to be included in our schedule as well. We're still working out the details and the exact timing of that.
So after the students arrive at school, if they opt in, I mentioned this in the chat earlier, all students at Farnsley are given the opportunity to have both a free breakfast and lunch. Not all children opt to eat breakfast, but that is something that is offered to everybody. So upon entering the building, if students choose to eat breakfast, they'll proceed through the open lines that we have, and we have 1 fewer line in the morning than we do through the lunchtime, but nonetheless, students will still enter the line socially distanced 6 feet apart. They will sit in their designated areas by grade level, and again will be socially distanced. They'll be given a brief time to eat the breakfasts. They're not necessarily a hot served lunch. They're more a grab and go, something that could be eaten quickly, but that still ensures that students have something in their belly so that they can fuel their brain when they go into the classroom. When they finish, they'll dispose of their trash and then be escorted as a small group. Probably will have to do this multiple times to the gym or another common area by an adult where they will join their peers and again remain socially distanced. After students exit the cafeteria, of course, all of the areas in the cafe will be sanitized. In the event that we have to have rotations of students coming in, the sanitizer that we'll be using does have something of a time limit on it where we have to make sure that it has had time to sit and neutralize any germ or bacteria that might be on the table. So we just want to do everything that we can to ensure that the students are eating in a safe and clean environment. So then during lunchtime, and I just wanted to add from what Ms. Burks was saying, just as a point to clarify, students in the classrooms, they will have an assigned seat where they will sit each and every day, unless there, is some reason why that seat will not work for them, because it's super important that we have very tight controls over knowing students' locations in the event that we need to contact trace. So students will be either eating in the cafeteria or in the classroom. The way that will work is, and truthfully, we'll probably do that on a rotational basis just so that students can have the option to get outside the classroom. We understand that it's going to be a lot of sitting and a lot of common scenery inside one classroom all day long. So, depending on the length of time that we're in school, we will work to rotate that so that every team at every grade level would have the opportunity to eat in the cafeteria. But prior to students transitioning to the cafeteria, they'll be provided with an opportunity to use the restroom and to wash their hands because, of course, we want to maintain all of the sanitary precautions that we can. Students who eat in the cafeteria also will be assigned a seat and will be socially distanced from others. Again, so that we know exactly where everyone is, who they've been around, that type of thing. As it's been mentioned earlier, if students bring a lunch from home, it must be in a disposable bag. And at the end of the lunch time, all trash must be thrown away. Nothing can return to the classroom. And that is simply just to ensure that we don't want any germs moving. Okay. All of the areas with student contact, as I mentioned earlier, will be sanitized prior to the next group's entry so that it's nice and clean for everyone that comes into the cafeteria to eat. And as has been mentioned earlier as well, after lunch and at different points during the day, students will be given wellness breaks before resuming their instructional time, just because we know that this is going to be quite different than the way that students have been experiencing school. And so there's going to be some fatigue, I'm sure, on their part and frankly on the part of the grown-ups. So we'll all be taking wellness breaks.
All right, and then for dismissal. So again, we know that some of you do not know where the kids go, especially if you're new to our building. So we do a like a third way dismissal. We dismiss bus riders first, and then we dismiss our car riders, and then we go with second run bus riders. So we will continue with that and do a spread out dismissal. And the kids that are staying after for second run, if they ride a second run bus, they will go into the gym and we will make sure that they are social distanced by their bus. If they are a car rider, they go back out to the back of the building where you drop them off, and the bus riders go out the way they came in, and so do the walkers. So they go out the same doors that they came in when they first came in the building. Really important tidbit of the next line: students will not be allowed to ride a school bus with another student. In the past, we've allowed that, but with contact tracing and with COVID, we are not going to be admitting students to be on the buses with other students, even with a parent note or phone call. And so we will not have any exceptions for that. But we will be happy to arrange, take a call during the day if someone else has to pick your child up. But again, make sure that they are on the enrollment form. And that's that next line too. We can't stress that enough. Those enrollment forms are lifelines for us throughout the day. My recommendation is for you to put your usual people on there that you do, but then maybe an extra one, especially in a situation that we're in now.
Okay, excuse me. Next slide, after school activities and athletics. All extracurricular activities is still going to continue to meet virtually. I know our quick recall and problem solving teams are still doing it virtually. They just compete in the regionals. Individual and clubs and sponsors, they'll have to reach out to the students if they're still going to continue to do it during COVID. And as far as athletics wise, as of right now, track is the only thing that they're going to try to run right now for middle school. But in the spring, they might try to do baseball and softball, but we are still waiting on additional information from the KHSAA. So we're still holding on that, but we think Track is going to be able to be run, but we don't know about other sports yet.
So, excuse me, I'm going to briefly talk about the mental health and social and emotional learning supports that your students will continue to receive. So, these supports and services will continue to be in place and available to students, just as they were during NTI and before us going into NTI and normal schooling. So these will be available to your students once we do transition back in person for in-person learning. Additionally, as we've said throughout this presentation, that they will receive wellness breaks, potentially 2 wellness breaks is what we are seeing that they will have. And so those will be, to allow for that physical movement, just to have kind of a brain break throughout the day, because we know that, we'll be coming back into school and it's going to be different, right? It's going to feel different. It's going to look a little different, and it's going to be an adjustment for everyone. Students might, feel a little anxious about it or just nervous or worried because it is going to be a transition and we haven't been all together in a year, at this point. So we definitely want to keep how they're doing and how they're feeling at top of mind for everyone. So as I think Mr. Rader sort of put in the chat, we'll be utilizing outside, weather permitting, the cafeteria, the gym, the library, to ensure they get that time for any breaks. In addition, supporting in the classroom if they need it as well. If a student, parent, guardian, or staff member is requesting additional support, they can access the contact information for the grade level counselors, the mental health practitioner, or the youth service center coordinator on the counselor's corner. We started that this year, and it's got resources and services and our contact information listed on there. That will be accessible for the students from their iPads. So they will have an app essentially on their iPads to where they can access the counselor's corner. The staff will have that as well. And for parent and guardians, that's accessible for farnsley.us. So you can go to our Farnsley website and click the counselor's corner link, and you'll be able to get in touch with us and access additional information. So as I said, we know that this is a big transition. So we just want to ensure you all that we're here for the student, not just in regards into their academics, but also how they're doing socially and emotionally, mental health wise as well. And so there'll be those resources on the Farnsley Corner website, the Counselor's Corner, and how to get in touch with those staff persons if you need to.
With us being a Ville school for this year, the devices that all of our students were given at the beginning of the year will be extremely helpful once we get back into the building. If your student still needs a iPad, my contact information is right there. Please email me and we can get the paperwork sent to you and get a date and time that is convenient for you, for your student to be able to pick up their device. We do have some students whose parents want them to be day users, which is also an option where the iPad will not come home with you. If you are a parent who would like your child to be a day user, please reach out and we'll make sure that we can accommodate your needs. Students will be asked to bring a fully charged iPad to school every day. They're going to be used from the minute they get to the building by scanning a QR code to enter the building, to document their temperature and answer a couple how they're feeling questions. And they'll also be used throughout the day to complete their work, to avoid cross-contamination by paper and pencils and whatnot in their classes. Again, if your student needs a device, please reach out.
I did want to touch base on the Chromebooks and the iPads that you currently may have in your possession. The district is not asking for you to return the Chromebook just yet. At the end of the year, end of this school year, we will ask for the Chromebooks and the iPads. But in case, for whatever reason, there is a further outbreak or what have you, and we need to return to NTI, we don't want to go through the process of collecting and then redistributing the Chromebooks for your students' educational purposes. So please hold on to those devices until the end of the year when we collect them. At this time, our presentation is finished, though I'm sure there are other comments, questions, or concerns. So if you would like to come off mute and ask them out loud, or even type them in the chat, we'll repeat the question that's in the chat just so that everyone hears the question before we answer it.
Ms. Smith, I think Courtney's got all the questions up. I believe that we're in the chat as of right now.
We can run through those if you guys want to run through them. Okay, is that what you guys want to do?
Yes, please.
That's fine. Many of them have already been answered, but I think even in the event that people have popped in or we're not monitoring the chat as closely, it might benefit everybody to just hear the responses.
Okay, I can go through and read them, and then whomever wants to chime in to answer. The first question is, what if my child has lost their Phil's backpack?
We do have a few extras. If your child has lost their Bill's backpack, you can reach out to myself, and I'll put my email in the chat, and we will see if we can get you or your student another one to replace the one that they lost.
Mr. Kester, can you drop the slide deck again, a link? We'll go over the uniform again, but we're also going to drop that in there if you want to check that out too. Do you want to just back up to that slide one more time, Mr. Kester? Thank you. You're the best. Okay, so the dress code here is, and there's a link there. Ms. Mayhew, do you just want to briefly kind of just go over that quickly, what they can wear?
I can do that. I'm going to pull up on my end so I can see it better. So I'll just run through this really quickly. So general guidance clothing must not be see-through. We had to make sure that it's appropriate with no vulgar sayings or anything on the front. As far as shirts and tops, it can be any color is acceptable. Must have the entire torso covered. No crop tops, no tank tops. So it must have sleeves. No rips, tears, or cutouts. On the shirt, back cannot be exposed. They can wear sweaters, pullovers, sweatshirts, and any color is acceptable. They can wear the half zip pullover and Sherpas. Again, no cropped length and no hooded sweatshirts. So students cannot wear hoodies, although middle school, that's the most popular thing. They cannot wear those. For pants or the bottom half, any color is acceptable again. Tights, legging, yoga pants are only acceptable if worn under skirts or dresses or jumpers. Shorts, skirts, and dresses must be fingertip length with outstretched arm down the leg. No rips or holes with exposed skin above the knee. No sagging. Undergarments may never be visible. No pajama pants and no cutoffs. Shoes, obviously tennis shoes are the best option, but shoes are required at all times. Shoes must cover toes and heels at all times, so no backless shoes, no house shoes, no heels higher than an inch. Accessories, so it's the one thing that is approved is their iPad swag bag. You know, the Vils backpack, we want them to have that. That's why we gave it to them, and so it's important for them to have that with them. And they're going to carry it throughout the school day because we're not going to use lockers. They are allowed to have watches, no smartwatches. All accessories such as hats, winter wear, bandanas, all of those things are to be kept in their backpack. No fanny packs, no oversized jewelry, no glasses without lenses, no backpack purses. Again, outerwear is going to be kept in their backpack during the school day. Other things, they are allowed to have a water bottle with water only, no Gatorade, no juices and whatnot, just water. No headphones other than what we distribute to them for them to use for their iPads. We don't want them to have their iPods, their Kindles, any of those kinds of things that are not permitted. Cell phones, we do have a cell phone policy. If the student has it with them, it must be turned off and kept in their backpack for the school day. And I think that's it for the dress code.
Thank you, Ms. Mayhew. We'll go to the next question in that list, Mr. Kester. Thank you. All right. If my child is sick, can they attend virtual classes? And that is yes. I think Ms. Lanier posted that in the chat. If your child is sick during this time, they can still attend the virtual classes.
Let me be a little more specific.
Yes,
like,
you,
let's say a child, you have registered your child or designated your child to be in person, planning to return to school, and then they become sick. You do not have to go back in and make them a virtual student or what have you. You can continue to have them be an in-person instruction. And during the period of time that they are sick or needing to quarantine or what have you, they can stay that way. But if they are going to be for a longer duration of time, we wish that you would go ahead and designate them a virtual instruction student so that we can accommodate them and follow that schedule.
Also, the teachers are really going to be updating those Google Classrooms as well. So your student will still be able to get their assignments on the Google Classroom. All right. Will Farnsley still be providing lunch and breakfast? Yes. All students at Farnsley are provided lunch and breakfast if they would like it. Will allergy symptoms make a student considered sick? We will be going based off that 100.4 temperature and calling home with that. Anybody else? Just chime in if I'm going too fast. Will there be multiple students in the health room? We have designed the health room so that we have social distancing measures in place. So students will have their own area and be social distanced from other students. How will temperatures be taken? So each area in the building where students come in, at the front doors and the back doors, the 2 locations, the staff there will have a kit of sanitizer and masks if they need it, but then they'll also have thermometers, and the temperatures will be read at the forehead, and they're not touching the student. There's a distance away from the student. And if a parent chooses to have their child continue with virtual classes, will the virtual child have live lessons with the children in the school? Mr. Radersdorf or a counselor want to kind of go further with that?
So we're still, when I replied in the chat, I didn't have a whole lot to answer. I mean, we're still working on the virtual, what that's going to look like, to be honest with you. So right now, I don't have an answer, but that is something that we would like to be able to include. We're still waiting on some more guidance. I see Ms. Smith came off mute, so I don't know if she has something to add.
Thank you for that. Well, let me let you parents understand how we are nearing what that looks like. We do have to get a district guidance as far as what platform will be available, what regulations we can have or put in place. One of the things that really does determine how we can move forward is whether or not your child is going to be virtual or in person. We divide them. If your child is designated as in person, then we follow this schedule. If your child is virtual, then we follow this schedule, and we counterbalance that with the number of staff that will teach in person versus having a doctor's excuse for them to be able to teach virtual. And we have to satisfy that as well. And we're more than happy to do so, because your health and safety of our staff and our students are more important to us than whether or not we see you in face to face or what have you. So with that being said, the more the numbers come in, the better we're able to make a plan and go from there. Ideally, let's say there is a teacher on a team that is needing to teach virtual. Or even this, let's say we have all 4 teachers present. How will we rotate that? Well, we will rotate it where there is, maybe the numbers will be low enough where we have 1 teacher teach virtual. First period is language arts, teaching virtual, while the other 3 are teaching in person. And then the second period is math. They have related, math has virtual instruction while the other 3 have in person. And that virtual class will then, technically, that teacher will rotate. Third period may be science and fourth period will be social studies. That is such an ideal world. Do ideal numbers roll out like that? They don't. They don't roll out like that. But just know we are working with what is given, and we will make sure that every child is receiving the instruction that they need to throughout.
All right, let's see, where did I get off there? If weather does not permit, is there a plan to ensure students receive breaks during the day? And we are working on that. That's kind of our next tier of business that we're working on as an admin team. So we do not have any like specifics yet. We're waiting for some more information to come down the pike. But it is a priority for us to give students breaks during the day. Yes.
Mr. Radersworth did answer in the chat that it's a possibility to utilize the cafeteria, the gym, the library, which are larger spaces, and will allow them to spread out. So that's definitely a possibility. In addition to, we have some pretty cool mindful activities and some different apps that they can use with their iPad just to give them a brain break, maybe not necessarily the classroom, but some options for them. So we're working on those as well.
And the next question is, is there a plan for 6th graders that never been inside the building? So yes, we are waiting to hear details, but from what Dr. Polio is saying is that he would like the 6th graders to come back first. And so we're just in conversation about getting them acquainted. Farnsley, if we were in an ideal setting, Farnsley is very good about trying to get 6th graders acquainted. We have Camp Compass in a normal school setting, which is like a 6th grade orientation during the summer. So we know that those students did not get that this year. They did a virtual experiment with that, but we didn't have the in-person. And so their experience hasn't been what we wanted it to be, especially with getting them acquainted in the building. So we will definitely work out those kinks and have students ready to go. We're going to plan on having some videos for students before we enter the building, and that's for all students because we have new 7th graders and 8th graders. So we want to make sure that they're acquainted with the building before we even touch foot into the building. So we've got some plans that are coming down through. We kind of started the reopening plan with big ideas, like the major things, and then we're kind of working out the rest of it as we, the weeks proceed on and as we get more information.
Ms. Nethery, if I could just add on to
Please.
what you said, for those of you who are who are parents and have students who will be new 6th graders to Farnsley, the way that our building is arranged, it's a 2-floor building, and all of the 6th graders attend their classes on the 2nd floor. So they do not have interaction with the 7th and 8th graders that are on the 1st floor. So that it kind of provides like a little safety nest and a safety net, if you will, so that they are only with other sixth graders. So that I think that helps provide some security as well, because they're not, they might not see, an eighth grader who's, 6'2" in the hallway, and, and they're still 4'3". So that's another thing to keep in mind as well, that they are contained on the second floor and kind of nested there.
All right. Next question. Is it safe to assume that a student will be allowed to be an AM car rider and a PM bus rider? Yes. So they can still do that. If you can have that prearranged with your student, if they know exactly how they're getting home in the afternoon, that would be great, especially for these sixth graders. They get kind of confused when we're in school. They may forget. So, making sure they know how they're getting home.
Also, it is that you have to designate that on the transportation form that is electronic. And that is also in our chat, in our agenda that we have provided for you tonight. You have to designate how they're getting to or from school, and you can make that designation already.
Thank you. Will students be allowed to carry a water bottle with them throughout the day? The answer is yes, they will. How will teachers split their time between virtual and in person? That's a lot of the questions we've seen in the chat as well. Different variances of it. We really don't have a huge plan yet. I mean, we're working on a plan for the virtual setting. So we will give you more information. There will be a series of these family engagement nights where we will give you more information as we get them. So that is something that we're working on. And can you change your selection? You certainly can. There's a link in, I think, an early slide where you can do that. I think it may be slide number 3. Let's see. Is there a tentative plan to improve failing grades and students who are behind on assignments? Is summer school an option? And yes. So we are working on, our teachers meet in what we call PLCs, the collaborative group of grade level content teachers. And we are now in conversations where they are planning on what is some of the unfinished learning that we haven't done yet? What's some of the stuff that we're not going to hit? And what's our plan of action so to make sure these students are getting this learning? So we are in conversations weekly about that. I was just in a conversation today with 8th grade ELA teachers who have focused on that the majority of the last couple weeks. So we're working on it. It's a working plan. As for summer school, we will give you more information as we get it. We're hoping that that's an option. We're confident that we'll be providing some sort of services this summer. Can we expect students to receive more assignments content than they have during NTI? If anyone else wants to chime in and answer that, I think it's going to be about the same of what they're doing right now, but we really don't have a set plan to present for that.
Well, the plan is currently, if we follow the model that we have in place that we are proposing for our in-person instruction, each one of your content will meet for 70 minutes a day. Well, 70 minutes a day, but noting that we will be likely going into a hybrid model, which means that group A, maybe last name A through K, will come Monday and Tuesday, asynchronous day on Wednesday, and then the rest of the alphabet, L through Z, will come Thursday and Friday. If I said that correctly. The first part of the alphabet, Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, online instruction, the last of the alphabet, Thursday and Friday. So even though you are getting 70 minutes of instruction per class, per 2 days that you're in person, and then asynchronous day, it'll be more. Technically, that's more than the current schedule. But to say it is back to the normal, this is a new normal.
And Ms. Smith, the next question you may be able to answer, I'm just not quite certain. Is there a plan for yearbooks or pictures this year?
So at this point, there is not a plan for yearbooks or pictures this year. We were going to try to do that, but in order to get the yearbook ready to go, the whole outline with pictures and team pictures and everything would have had to be submitted like yesterday, no, like February. My children go to a school that they're trying to produce a yearbook whereby we submit our own pictures to them, and they're having a big struggle to try to get that done. But please know they are a third of the size of Farnsley. So I'm not really sure how that's going to play out, or if it's going to play out. We have tried, and we don't think we're going to be able to make it happen. But coming up with some way to commemorate 8th grade students' time this year, or even in middle school period, is still a plan.
All right, and that seems to be all the questions that we've taken off the chat. If anyone has any other questions, we'll be on for just a few more minutes.
I do want to say, parents, as a youth service center coordinator, I know Ms. Downs touched on the mental wellness of the students and how we can still serve them and support them, and you as well. But I want to let you know that the Youth Service Center is committed to making sure that your student has anything that they need while they're in the building. So should something happen to their clothing, or they're cold and they need something, or whatever that may be, I'm there to help them, give them what they need. If it's supplies for them to be successful in the classroom other than their iPad or what you send them with, I will make sure they have what they need. Again, the movement of the student will be not what we normally have, where they would come to me and I would give them what they need, but their teachers will let me know what they need and I will come to them. So I just want to let you know that I will support them, and while they're in the building, if there's anything that they need, we'll make sure they get taken care of. And thanks for coming tonight, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying thank you for the information. Yeah. We just appreciate you coming and listening and giving us some good feedback, because you guys are giving us a lot of things to think about. We could not do this without you. We needed your feedback as well. So thank you. Thank you.
As we mentioned before, this is being recorded and we will post it on our webpage. And so you can refer to it for additional information, recap, or if you missed any part of this, you can still refer to it.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank y'all.